Hello and welcome to Movies and Tea. I'm your host always, Elwood Jones, and joining me of course is my co-host, Miss Kim Lowe.
Hello.
Tonight we take a break from our usual dissections of director filmographies to look at a screener that we've been received, which is 2020's Still the Water, directed by Susan Rodgers, her first feature film. The film itself, following a trio of brothers who are coming to terms with dealing with a domestic tragedy that in their past that threatens to still tear them apart, as the middle brother returns to the small quiet fishing village, forcing the family once again to deal with the issues that originally drove him away. Now, Kim, I mean, obviously this is a screener that we were sent through to have a look at, and as I said, it's a little independent film. It's directed, as I said, by Susan Rodgers. This is her first feature film. Susan Rodgers herself, she's a former museum curator who started as a wardrobe continuity gig on television show Emily of the New Moon, and soon went into directing herself, starting off with the short film Bobby's Piece, and this being her feature film. But opening thoughts on this one, Kim?
It's, I think one of the things that really drew me to the movie itself was the setting. I mean, Prince Edward Island is not usually anyone's choice of filming, I guess, because it's just this tiny little island in Canada, in kind of eastern Canada, where just, the only things people know it for is potato farms. So it's not exactly, potato farms and lobsters. And you just don't really, I guess, I never expected kind of anybody to be filming there. So it's interesting that they set it there, especially in this small town, and then they really captured the essence of the island itself, the scenery and the location that they're in, while also using it to set this kind of, I guess, more of a small town community type of story between this family who, I guess, it's the brother who's coming back from, having beating someone up and getting kicked off a hockey team and coming home to just as like a layover to stay where to find his next thing.
Yeah, Jordie is the semi-pro hockey player who's just recently been fired from his team, as you said, for just random acts of aggression. We're told that this isn't the first time this has happened, and probably he would be further in his career if he wasn't just constantly, fighting people. But he's now obviously returned to Prince Edward Island. He's teaming up with his two brothers, who've got Nicky and Noah, as well as the alien alcoholic father, and basically ends up joining the beer league team, ice hockey team as he refers to it as, with his older brother, and essentially tries to form some sort of semblance of a life while reconnecting with his two brothers. But yeah, this is, as you said, this is a very barren location, to say the least. It's like the Canadian South, it feels like.
No, well, the Canadian East. So, but I mean, it was really interesting because it was also really educational in the sense that, I mean, for me at least, even for me, I'm not too familiar with semi-pro hockey teams and such, and the team that they're on is actually a team that exists. So that was kind of news to me when I was looking up kind of information and stuff like that. But I mean, when we talk about the I guess just the dynamic between the brothers, I really like that the story pretty much kicks off right away. It doesn't take a long time to just kind of build, I guess. Right away, we know Jordie's issues and him being kicked out of the team and going home. And right from the first time this conversation happens, that he drives into to park at his brother Nicky's house, right away that there's an issue that is between them. And I think this is the thing that hangs over the entire movie, is what is this issue that has caused these brothers to break apart? More Nicky and Jordie than than obviously with the younger brother, Noah, because Noah seems to be probably much younger than they are. So he's less, I guess, less affected. He's more of like the glue in the family, where he still, takes care of his father, and then he still it has a close relationship with Nikki, and he doesn't seem to be so against, I guess, Jordie being back. I don't remember his name anymore. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this whole plotting, it reminded me of like those Mills and Boone novels you get, with the shirtless cowboy on the front. It's only instead of being in the South, we're in the, as we said, we're in the east of Canada. And obviously instead of a cowboy, he's a hockey player because, there's a lot of cowboys in Canada as far as I'm aware. So, but it's the same sort of thing. It's somewhere between that and a Nicholas Sparks novel. This is not a... This is not a movie you go into expecting a fun time, I'll tell you that much.
But I like that you bring up the Nicholas Sparks thing, because in one of the dialogues and that conversation they had later on in the movie, they actually refer to as a joke of bringing up, whatever Nicholas Sparks. And I thought that was kind of interesting in that sense, because you have this sense of drama that's going on between them, and then you have this kind of estranged brother that comes back. And I know where you're coming from, and I think that you can really see where it is, because I took a quick look at Susan Rodgers, because she's also a writer, the books that she's written, and it seems to be more along this kind of, at least just from the summaries. I've never read any of her books, but just that seems to be the area of writing that she's more seems to be focused in, I guess. At least one of her series of her books seems to be in that area. Definitely books that I don't read so much of, or I used to read but have definitely stopped reading at this point. It's nice because she doesn't really focus it on the romance, I guess, so much. But you have this kind of feeling of this is really just a family drama between the brothers, which makes it, if anything, there was a problem with the narrative, was the balance that they were trying to pull between Jordie and their neighbor Abby, and this growing relationship they have. I guess this growing connection they have, because they don't really have a relationship. And as well as finding that balance between the brothers. As you see the brothers kind of having kind of maybe a change in how they interact, especially as you watch Nikki kind of go into this old path that he used to go in, kind of deal. Or maybe more like as they talk more about their father, going down the road of what their father was before their family was broken.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, when we look at the defining dynamic here, I mean, it's really the story itself is really between Jordie and Nikki. Noah is kind of surplus to means, really, and kind of in times I mean, wondered what he was there for, other than very many failed attempts at humour. Such we get that really uncomfortable scene where he's harassing the waitress, and I'm sure that perhaps that was supposed to be funnier than it came across, but it just came across kind of mean-spirited. But certainly the main sort of meat of the story is just in the relationship between Jordie and Nikki. I mean, obviously Jordie is the good-looking drifter type here, as we see he's like rolls into town and then sleeps in the back of his truck and is wandering around with his shirt off, to much of the delight of one of the locals, it has to be said. And I have to say, it looks bloody cold, so I don't know how he managed to sleep in the back of his open trucks. But and then you obviously got Nikki, in comparison, who's the one who obviously stayed at home and continued to run the family business and got married and had kids and, settled responsibilities while looking after this father who's got this highly abusive and drunken past, and at the same time has been basically crippled by old age. And that's the only thing that sort of mellowed him out. But you get for the conversations that these two characters have, you get the ideas that he was once a real nasty piece of work. Seeing him, I was kind of glad that it didn't go into the cliche things where, he reconnects with the old girlfriend in town and the rest of this sort of nonsense. It's just really is just focuses the whole time on just these two brothers reconnecting, and as I said, the neighbour Abby being the sort of go-between between the two, sort of a way to discuss other things. And at the same, I mean, he also has his ghost cat that he constantly feeds that you never see in the film.
I think the most genius part of the movie that I really thought was amazing was how they keep talking about this cat, and then you keep wondering throughout the movie whether the cat is going to make an appearance. And, you know, obviously because we're such cat people with our own studio cats, we kind of don't you sometimes wish during our recordings that our studio cats would be a little bit more ghostly?
It would be nice when they're just busy knocking stuff over or snoring next to the mic in case of marmites. So so yeah, and this is, I mean, the thing that sort of admired with Susan Rodgers, I mean, she set out to direct this film. She didn't want to build sets at all, so she uses locations in the town. The downside of this, obviously, situation is the fact that we end up with this situation similar to when you watch like kung fu movies and you have a style of editing called teleport fu, where characters will like jump in the air and then suddenly move to a different location. We seem to be experiencing the serious drama version of that, where characters will be like talking in one scene and then we're snapped to them talking a completely different scene, and there's no connective scene between it, and it ends up with this really disjointed feel at times to it.
Yeah. I definitely, I think one of the scenes that really showed that was when Jordie goes for a coffee, and then he's sitting down, and then the next shot, nothing actually happens. He's just listening to the people in the coffee shop talk in the distance or something. And then the next shot, he's at the bar. And he's getting a beer at the bar. Yeah. And you're just like, what? What happened? What was the purpose of that?
Certainly with when we look at the character Jordie as well, that she's trying to do that less is more approach. And it just doesn't really work a lot of the time. I mean, it's no real sort of discredit to the actor himself. I mean, here he's played by Ry Barrett, who's kind of like Canada's answer to Chris Helmsworth. There's a real distinct look between the two, and I think maybe further down the line he may slip into that role once the big leagues discover him. But here, I mean, he's enjoyable enough to work and gets to do a bit of emotion. For him, you just wish that he would do more instead of just like standing there like a mute half the time.
You know, what's really nice about Still the Water for me is really the fact that I'm actually really familiar with films, especially by Ry Barrett. As I'm looking through his I'm looking through his list, there's a lot of movies that I have seen of him, especially in the Canadian indie film, especially in kind of like the horror setting. He's done a lot of movies, and especially with, you know, I think he starts off a lot of the movies he was in was part of Black Fawn Films. So that's a studio, that's a film production studio that I've been very, very following very closely. So, I mean, he's actually also in one of the movies where we reviewed, well, we didn't review, but we talked about prior, and that's, I think it's just Justin McConnell, who did Clapboard Jungle, the documentary about, and he was in his movie, Life Changer. Yeah, so, I mean, Ry Barrett has a lot of credit because I think the first movie I saw him was in The Drownsman. And he not only has the role of being, in the movie itself, I don't remember exactly, but he plays the drownsman, the actual drownsman, which is kind of like Black Fawn's way of creating this monster that was kind of paying homage to horror movies. But obviously that's besides the point. But I mean, you know, I've also talked about Antisocial and movies like that, which I personally really enjoyed. So, I mean, he's been in a lot of different, obviously he's definitely high on my list of actors that I've seen a lot of in the indie film scene. And like you said, I mean, he could really make it big if, you know, he gets, I guess, hired into bigger movies as well, more well-known than, I guess, this indie scene. But, I mean, it's not that he's done bad movies or anything, and I wasn't aware of this before, but it's a movie that's on my list. He's also in The Heretics, which actually he pairs up with Colin Price, who plays Nicky in this movie. So I'm going to be interested in watching that just to see how the dynamic of that movie carries from this one.
I just wanted to obviously just talk about the neighbor character again, because she has a very weird introduction, I thought. I wasn't sure if I actually missed something with her, because Jordie's truck breaks down and then she just appears from nowhere and throws like these junk leads down. It's like, what the hell happened? Did I miss something here?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I think it's just a neighbor thing, right? Because they all live in that same corner, that same kind of triangle type of area.
Yeah, but still, you introduce yourself. You don't just walk up and just like throw junk leads at someone and like with this sign that their broken ass truck has been annoying you. So
I think it's supposed to be an introduction for her character, because Abby is kind of this character which seems like it's hard for her to be very, I guess, close to other people or connect with other people. There's a lot in her past that she's trying to let go of, and I think that's part of what it is it's her sign of helping, I guess, that, you know, maybe his truck is in the way, maybe whatever we can think of. We don't know the reason for sure, but she offers her help, and maybe she's just not a people person. It's supposed to, I think the opening scene like that is really for her to craft her character right from, you know, the first impression that she's not probably easy to deal with as a person, or, you know, she might not be as friendly as, you know, she's a little off-putting as in the first scene. And it's a way to kind of open up her character so that we slowly learn more about Abby. But, you know, my main thing is, I feel like Abby's story is so on the side, and it sometimes even feels like she's really there just to create that conflict between the brothers as, like, this trigger. And a part of me when I'm watching this movie makes me wonder whether it feels a little bit too deliberate. Like, it doesn't help with the flow of the movie.
No, I mean, the flow is one of the big issues of this film. It's sort of like, it feels that that she had all these ideas for scenes in mind, but had no idea how to really sort of connect them. And I think this is the problem, is the fact that it's so focused on these, on in particularly two characters, I mean, Jordie and Nicky. It's just where the focus just lies constantly, that it never gives us any sort of B plot that the film really could have done with, just to sort of break things up, or just to give us an excuse so that when we cut from one character, they don't just randomly appear in another scene. It just felt like something was missing. I mean, obviously, while we have some very good performances here, and the story itself is certainly not without its moments, it's just, I would say, there's only so much you can beat the audience down. You know, give us some reprieve here. I mean, we get the only sort of real bit of action scene we get here is when Jordie goes with Nicky and they go lobster fishing, and he gets pulled overboard, and at one point it seems like he might drown. That's our one big action beat that we get in this film. So if you're looking for a film where a lot of people are very angsty and down, like very sad, then I think you may enjoy this movie more than sort of my middle of the road experience I had.
I mean, I think I didn't expect like action, because this does feel like a more quiet sort of drama for sure. And in reality, compared to, I guess it's just where you're at, right? Because I'm coming out of obviously it's been a month or so now, but I mean, I came out of the new film cinema thing festival, and it's just, that festival was a bunch of drama, which really had some really, really depressing stuff going on. So when you think about it, I actually thought this one ended on quite the high note, which is a really different approach to a lot of dramas that are, you know, slow burn, because there is some kind of redemption in our characters. There's kind of a peace offering. The characters all seem to go for the better. I know happy endings aren't what everybody loves to have, but I think it was well deserved in that sense. My only issue with a lot of movies nowadays is that every single movie stems from lack of communication. And that really frustrates me because if you didn't start punching people, maybe, I don't know, maybe it's a brothers thing. I've never had brothers. I don't even have sisters. So
well, I mean, this is the thing. I mean, Jordie is sort of like got this whole sort of history of getting into fights on the ice, but yeah, he moves to the town and it's Nikki who constantly keeps punching him in the face every 5 minutes. So
you know, I can see that. I think what I appreciate from the movie, there is definitely a lot of stuff, especially in execution, that could be a lot better, especially with just how the script itself flows. But I think the center of the story is not a bad one, because it does tell a fairly straightforward story, and it does tease that kind of carry that story forward by giving you that unknown factor that you're trying to understand what's going on with this family. The whole time you don't really know until you hit that final act when things kind of come back together and everybody seems to... I guess it's the whole central concept of forgiving, right? And giving, like I said, redemption to each of the characters as they face each other. Maybe not run away from their problems, run away from the broken family, face up to their own responsibilities, that sort of thing. But at the same time, but then, there's a lot of things I do enjoy about the movie. I think the soundtrack was pretty good. The setting was really good. The acting, I thought, was quite on point. I mean, Ry Barrett delivered a really good performance. Colin Price was also really good. And I think if there was anything that I didn't really like that much, probably was the Abby. Abby's character really turned me off. I don't know why. I had issues with how her character was written.
She's kind of nothing, isn't she?
She just feels, like I said, she feels like more of, it just seems too deliberate, her character. And it's not really, because it's not fleshed out either. You never know what really happens to her. You know that she loses her kid. And I don't know if I missed it or not. Is it that she lost her kid? Or is it that the kid can't see her anymore because she lost custody? I don't know what it is. But she's lost her child, and that's as straightforward as it is, and that's why it's something that she can't move on from, type of thing. But at the same time, her character seems like it doesn't have enough space to grow, but then you give her quite a bit of screen time also. So it's neither here or there, I think. I think that's where I'm at with it. That her character doesn't seem like I care enough that it matters, but because I know that this is about Jordie and Nikki. But at the same time, Abby also seems to be this key piece that drives the brothers away, but also pulls them together. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, I know what you mean. So it's as I said, it was not a sort of film I would normally watch, and it was an okay experience. I found with this one. I haven't really got much else to really say about this one. I mean, it sort of hinges on a couple of performances here, and it's just a shame that the construction needed some work here, as it feels like. But it's, as I said, maybe you'll watch this and really enjoy it a lot more. Maybe you like dramas where people are just very sad and angry at each other, and that's what you get. I mean, for myself, I'm not a huge fan of the family angst style genre, things like this, and Tyrannosaur just don't, or Down Terrace, they just don't really. When people say that it's sort of like a gritty and it's a hard watch, it's all that's not sort of things that sort of stand out to me as things that I want to spend my time with. So, but no, it deserves some credit for trying to give it something new in terms of location. So now I know what the Easter Canada looks like. So
a very small piece of the Eastern Canada.
So trucks with the maple leaf on the back and.
Like, the concept of, if you don't know what PEI is this tiny little island that you can pretty much drive. I think in a day you can drive through it. I have tried to do it, but I have tried to do it before.
But yeah, not somewhere I'm going to be sort of rushing to go and plan my next holiday to. I don't think so.
Well, as we're filming this, there's no planning for any holidays between Canada and UK at this point. So
no, I suppose not. One I would recommend, if you did like this, I would recommend checking out Winter's Bone from 2010, starring Jennifer Lawrence towards the start of her career. Set in the Ozark Mountains, and basically it's really well, this one's obviously like a small, fishing sort of town. This is obviously a small little redneck town, and basically Jennifer Lawrence plays this teen called Ree Dolly, who basically has to try and track down her dad after he skips bail and to stop the house from being repossessed. She has to basically try and find out where he's disappeared to in a town full of its own secrets. This is a very similar in sort of tone. It's not the happiest of pictures, but it's a fun, unique twist on this sort of like investigative thriller with this young girl trying to find out where her father's gone and encounter the many weird and wonderful locals of this town. That would be the one I would most go to. No, I think if you like this, I would recommend checking out Winter's Bone for 2010.
Yeah, that's a really good choice. I mean, I actually thought about Winter's Bone as a potential further viewing, but I don't remember the movie because I watched it so long ago. I only remember Jennifer Lawrence was in it, and that it was a pretty good movie, and that's about all I remember.
Yeah, it was one of those movies. Again, it was a lot more harsh than I was expecting it to be, but it's one that came out. It's a little indie movie that could. But again, another female director, so I think it fits in perfectly if we were to do it in our upcoming season, where we're going to be celebrating the work of female directors. It's directed by Deborah Granick. But no, it's certainly a real sort of standout performance by a young Jennifer Lawrence, who's obviously gone on to bigger and better things. So, but that would be my the one I would put it next to. I mean, there's also Frozen River from 2018, directed by Courtney Hunt and with Melissa Leo, who plays a working class mother in need of money, and she's lured by the possibility of easy cash, basically smuggling immigrants from Canada to the US across the St. Lawrence, which is frozen in winter. And it's a very similar in sort of theme, and again another part of Canada, I guess, for you to look at. So I suppose it's closer in location than Winter's Bone, but both have got that similar feel in their setting to this film. So those would be my two picks anyway. So. Thank you.
I like your picks.
Anything you want to add to talk?
No, I don't. I don't really have. I think the only one I really came up with was Winter's Bone, and I wasn't too sure about it anyways. But you already mentioned it, so I'm going to stick with your picks.
So there you have it. There's our review of Still the Water. Currently it is on the festival circuit at the moment, so keep a lookout for it while it's out and about. We've got no details on a home or a streaming release at the moment. I would, depending on, as I said, it depends on the sort of movies you like to watch, how much you're going to get out of this. But for myself, it was about a 2 point. I would say it's 2.5. You could go either way with this film for myself. So, but as this brings us into tonight's episode, thank you as always for listening. If you want to check out our other episodes, you can do it at moviesandtpodcast.wordpress.com. And wherever you're having to listen to us, please do hit the like and subscribe button to make sure you don't miss an episode, and maybe leave us a review. A rating. It all helps raise the profile of the show. You can follow us on Facebook and Instagram, and currently at the moment we are in the midst of our David Fincher retrospective, with our next episode coming up being Panic Room, so hope you can join us for that. But until next time, thank you to my co-host Kim, and thank you everyone for listening. Good night.